To film some of these components on this car, so hopefully that'll help you figure out where everything goes. So it might be easier to look at a video than to try to figure it out from the picture. So I'm just going to take a quick video of this as well. Again, what we've got here, how you doing? Yep, sure can, is map sensor. Then you've got some coolant temp sensors here. We've got, this is an oil pressure switch, I believe, down here. So that's a 3-wire connector. Looks like maybe an orange, a white with a black tracer, and I'm not sure what color that is because it's faded. But that's a 3-wire connector that goes out here. You've got a connector down here. This thing right here, I don't know if you can see this injector connection down here, but down under here it looks like an injector connector, and I'll show you this on the other engine. That is a cold start injector switch right there. So that uses coolant temperature to determine, anyway, it turns the relay on to turn the switch on. So you've got this harness that comes out this way from your engine. You got a main harness that comes out and plugs into, let me follow this out. You got the main harness right here that comes out and plugs into your fuse block here. Okay, and you've got a couple of fuse links right here that attach to the positive terminal down underneath here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's your positive terminal for your fuse links to connect to, and I'm going to show you that on the other engine. So those come back, connect there, and come back into this main harness in the engine. So this is your main harness coming up through here and goes right around and plugs into your injectors here. So this is your injector connector down here, your map sensor connector here. You've got a coolant temperature sensor connector under here. This is yellow and black. We'll look at that on the other engine. And then you've got a couple of coolant temp sensors. You got a coolant temp sensor here and the cold start injector switch there. So those are all on that side that I could see, and we'll look at them on the other engine too. And then if we come around on this side, you've got your tachometer filter connection here, which is just a white plastic connector, and mine's got 2 white wires. I'm not positive if that's what it comes stock with. You've got your ignition coil connections here, which is pink and yellow wires with a gray and a black connector. You've got your ignition or your distributor connection down here. It's got 2 connectors here. This one is a 4-wire connector, and then this one I believe is a 2-wire connector on this side. So I don't know if you can see those there, but that's your distributor connection down there. So under this one is that's the 4-wire connector there, and that's the 2-wire connector down there. 2-wire connector and the 4-wire connector. And then over here, these 2 things over here, that's your throttle position sensor there, and then your idle air control motor there. The idle air control motor is the 4-wire connector. There's an intake air temperature sensor in here somewhere. I'm not sure where that goes. And then most of your tubing, you've got your coolant hoses over here. Your main coolant hose that runs down, and this transfers over, I think, goes to the other side of the engine. Your other one comes out of your water pump and comes up here. We'll go over and look at that other engine then to see if you can see where anything else is that you might need. This connector here, this one right here, is your EGR lift solenoid vacuum switch. So that's your vacuum switch for the EGR lift solenoid. And then of course all your injectors, but that's your main harness coming out. Let's go over, I'm going to take a look over here at this other engine. Kind of wander through a shop here. Here's that's the V8 Fiero that's still totally incomplete. Body panels are off of it to be painted one day. But this engine over here has everything disconnected kinda. So you can see this would have been your distributor connection down here. So that's your four-wire distributor connection here. That's your idle air control motor connector there. Throttle position sensor connector there. If we go across here to the other side, look down here. This is looking down on the engine. Now the intake is off of this one. So looking down here, this is that's the cold start injector switch down there, and that is I believe a 2-wire connection there. You've got a coolant temp sensor right here, single wire coolant temp sensor right there. You've got that's your fuel injection connection there. This coolant temp sensor here is another coolant temp sensor, 2-wire. So one of these goes to your computer to give coolant temp for the computer, and the other one goes to the gauge. So one goes to the gauge, one goes to the computer. You've got this 3-wire connector. This is the one we looked at before on the engine over there. And that's an oil pressure switch of some sort. And there's probably more than one oil pressure switch in the car too. Your injectors, which you probably, that's not going to be, that should all still be covered up. We got this harness down here. We got grounds coming off here. So let's look where these go. This would be by your starter. This is an O2 sensor connector here. So the purple wire in the harness in the front, you got a purple wire coming out. That's going to be your O2, going to your O2 sensor. This one is going to be a ground. Any big black wire like that's got to be a ground wire. You've got these 3 wires coming up here. Let's see if we can find. We've got both of them ground. So we got some grounds on the back of the block, right? So this is going to be, if you were looking at your engine, this is going to be towards the firewall. These 2 connections here that run into this main harness. So that main harness that runs in front of your engine. You've got a AC compressor switch right there. So that'd be your high pressure switch for the compressor. Single wire connection with a green and white wire. And that looks like a power wire there. That might be a pressure sensor. That's a single wire coming back out of there. These are wires. You got a purple wire, big purple wire, and a orange wire. I would bet that they are probably your starter connections. Mine, this is not hooked up, so what I might do is put the other car in the lift and we'll take a look underneath it, so you can see underneath what it's supposed to look like. Sean, we got the car up on the lift, so we're up in the air now, going underneath. If we come forward, let's just start up here. Looking at your hose connections, if you look right here, your tube runs up, and this one runs into the water pump right there. So I don't know if you can see that hose runs from the water pump to your main tube going forward. This tube runs off and goes up to your heater core, and then you've got another return line here that runs up. This one connects up. Let's see if I can find where it goes. You can see there's your fuel lines there. Let's see if I can see where this goes. It's this line right here. It goes back up the firewall right there. So I have to see where that one runs in. That's that tube right there, runs up and back. So I'll look at that from up top then to see where that hose goes. But that's your the hose connection there, and then your other one has a tube that runs across. So that heater hose up top, or the main hose comes down here, has a steel tube that runs all the way over here and then connects to this flex hose right here, into your other, the driver's side tube. So that runs all the way up here. For your harness connection, there's your O2 sensor. I believe, yeah, that's your O2 sensor there. So you got an O2 sensor running off of that harness. That's that main harness running across. And here's all your starter connections. So you got a big purple wire that comes down here, and I can't see what these two color wires are because I don't have my glasses on, but hopefully you can see those wires that come out of the harness there and then hook up to the starter. You've got your connections to the AC compressor right here. So on the back of the AC compressor, you got a 2-wire connector there, I believe, and a single wire connector there. Let me stop this and we'll look to see if I can find anything else that need connecting. We had those 2 ground wires that come up on the back of the block, and I really can't see them from here, but they come up to the back of the cylinder head up there. You can see that connection right up there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there you got some ground wires connected to the back of your cylinder head. So let's go back up top and take a look and see if we can see anything up there. No other wires down here. Your alternator connection, make sure you can see that. You got the single heavy red wire going to the alternator, and then you have a plug in underneath here. So you got that one plugged into the back of the alternator there. And I don't see any other connections here. Speed sensor right here, but yeah, you would have your transmission out. So you got the speed sensor connection here on the top of the trans. But let's put it down and we'll take a look at it from there.